The medbay was quiet except for the slow, steady hum of the ship's engines. Dim blue lights cast long shadows across the walls, and the air smelled faintly of disinfectant and burning metal from distant repairs. Captain Jace stood just inside the doorway, his armor scratched from the last battle, his face unreadable as he looked at the figure lying on the bed. The alien princess, Lasara, was barely breathing. Her skin, usually a warm golden hue, was pale and cold. Faint blue lines pulsed under her skin, glowing weaker with every heartbeat. The ship's doctors moved quickly around her, their voices low and tense, speaking in a language Jace didn't understand, but he could hear enough words in common to know the truth. She was dying. Lasara had been wounded 3 days ago when her flagship was ambushed near the neutral zone. Jace had been there as part of a human delegation, acting as a military escort. He had fought side by side with her guards to push back the attackers, but they were too late to stop the poison blade that cut her side. It wasn't just any poison, it was a bioweapon made to attack her species' life force directly. No known cure existed, at least, not one that the Galactic Council allowed to be used. A tall alien medic stepped away from the bed and shook his head slowly. She has hours, maybe less, he said to the commander in charge. Jace clenched his fists, feeling a spark of anger. He had seen countless soldiers die in battle, but something about this felt different. It wasn't just that she was royalty, it was the way the crew spoke about her, as if her life was the last thin thread holding the galaxy from falling into war. The commander, a stern alien with silver eyes, noticed Jace watching. This is not your fight, human, he said coldly. The princess is beyond saving. Jace didn't reply, but his jaw tightened. Then Lasara's eyes fluttered open. They were bright green, but dim with pain. She looked past her people and found him in the corner. Her lips trembled as she whispered something in a voice so soft he almost missed it. Don't let them decide my ending. The words hit him like a pulse shot to the chest. Before he could ask what she meant, her eyes closed again, her breathing even shallower than before. Jace stepped forward, ignoring the medic who tried to block him. What did she mean? He demanded, his voice low but sharp. The commander's expression stayed unreadable. She means nothing that concerns you, he replied. Return to your quarters. But Jace had been a soldier long enough to know when something was being hidden from him. He turned to the medic. Is there a cure? The medic glanced at the commander nervously, then looked away without answering. That was all the answer Jace needed. In his mind, a plan began to form. Reckless, dangerous, maybe impossible, but the alternative was to watch her die and see a war ignite across the stars. He left the medbay and walked quickly down the silent corridors. Outside the viewing ports, the stars drifted like cold diamonds in the dark. He thought about the princess's whisper, the way she had looked at him as if she already knew he would try. Humans were stubborn, maybe too stubborn for their own good, and Jace had never been one to walk away from a fight worth taking. In the crew archives, he found an old officer willing to talk. For a price, the officer spoke of an ancient cure, not a medicine, but a living substance hidden deep in the core abyss. It could restore any life force, even from the edge of death. But the Galactic Council had forbidden anyone from seeking it. Those who tried never returned. Jace leaned back in the chair, his mind turning over the details. The core abyss was a graveyard of ships. Navigating it would mean certa in death for most pilots, but if there was even a chance, the officer's eyes narrowed. You are thinking of going there, he said quietly. If you do, you'll not only die, the council will put a price on your head before you even reach it. Jace's voice was calm, but inside, his blood was boiling. If she dies, the galaxy burns anyway, he replied. I'll take my chances. He left the archives and headed toward the hangar. Each step felt heavier, the weight of the decision pressing down on him, but in his mind, he saw Lasara's face, pale and fading, whispering for him not to let them decide her ending. It wasn't just about saving her, it was about defying a future that had already been written. When he reached the hangar, he found a small strike craft prepped for patrol. It wasn't built for long journeys, but it would have to do. He climbed into the cockpit, his hands moving fast over the controls. In the comm system, alarms began to sound. Someone had noticed the unauthorized launch sequence. Jace smiled faintly to himself. There was no turning back now. The engines roared to life, and the ship shot out into the endless dark. Behind him, the warship faded into a distant speck. Ahead, somewhere beyond the stars, lay the core abyss, and the only hope for the alien princess. The stars outside streaked into long silver lines as the strike craft entered faster-than-light travel. Jace sat in the cockpit, scanning the navigation charts, his eyes locked on the red zone that marked the core abyss. Every warning in the system flashed at him: do not enter, no survivors recorded, but he ignored them, his focus sharp, back on the alien warship. Chaos was spreading. The commander had discovered Jace's disappearance and ordered an emergency council. He is human, one officer growled. He will fail and die, and his foolishness will dishonor the princess's final moments. But Lysara's chief attendant, a quiet old alien woman named Mayrel, kept her gaze fixed on the floor, hiding the flicker of hope in her eyes. In the strike craft, Jace accessed the restricted files the old officer had given him. They spoke of the heart of the abyss, a living organism that pulsed with raw energy. Its cells could rebuild any life form, restoring even the smallest flicker of life force, but it was guarded by something older than the Galactic Council, something that had destroyed entire fleets for trespassing. Halfway to the abyss, a proximity alarm blared. Jace cursed under his breath, adjusting the controls. 3 ships were closing in from behind. Small, fast interceptors, council hunters. They had found him faster than he expected. He pushed the engines to their limit, the strike craft shuddering under the strain. The enemy ships opened fire, plasma bolts cutting through the dark like burning spears. Jace rolled hard to the right, diving toward a debris field left from some long-forgotten battle. Metal carcasses of destroyed cruisers drifted slowly, their twisted shapes casting shadows across the stars. The interceptors followed, their shots hammering against the strike craft's shields. The warning lights on his dashboard blinked red, but Jace didn't slow down. He dove deeper into the wreckage, weaving between shattered hulls and frozen corpses drifting silently in the void. One of the interceptors clipped the edge of a wrecked frigate and exploded. The shockwave spun Jace's ship off course. Alarm screaming, he gritted his teeth, forcing the controls steady. 2 hunters remained, and they were closing in. Then Jace saw it, an opening between 2 massive hulls, barely wide enough for his ship. He slammed the throttle, scraping the edges as he shot through. Behind him, one of the interceptors tried to follow but smashed into the wreckage, vanishing in a burst of fire. The last hunter pulled back, unwilling to risk the same fate. For a moment, silence returned. Jace allowed himself a single breath of relief, but it didn't last. The ship's sensors detected something ahead, a faint, deep vibration. The closer he got to the abyss, the more it grew. It wasn't like an engine hum, it was alive. The core abyss came into view like a massive storm frozen in space. Swirling clouds of black and violet energy twisted around a dark center that seemed to swallow light itself. It was beautiful and terrifying. Even Jace, who had faced warlords and death world beasts, felt a chill crawl up his spine. Inside the warship, Lysara's breathing had slowed. Her attendants spoke in hushed voices, believing she could not hear them, but in her mind, she saw flashes, a human ship streaking toward danger. She didn't know how, but she felt Jace's presence. Her fingers twitched weakly against the sheets. Jace's ship crossed into the edge of the abyss. Immediately, all systems went wild. Navigation flickered, weapons locked themselves, and the artificial gravity shifted in strange, uneven waves. He gripped the controls tightly, fighting the urge to turn back. Somewhere in there was the cure, somewhere in there was the one chance to save her. A shadow moved in the swirling clouds, so massive it seemed like part of the abyss itself. For a moment, it vanished, then reappeared closer, and Jace realized with a sharp jolt that it was moving toward him. It wasn't a ship, it was alive. The shadow grew larger until it filled the cockpit window. Jace's breath slowed, his instinct screaming that this was not just a creature, it was something ancient. Something that had been here long before humans had even discovered faster-than-light travel. Its body shimmered with patterns of shifting light, like stars trapped under its skin. Its eyes were twin orbs of molten gold, burning with a slow, patient hunger. The ship's warning alarms went dead, as if the systems themselves were afraid to make noise. Jace gripped the flight control LS tighter. The creature drifted closer, its movement too smooth, too deliberate. Then it opened its mouth, not to roar, but to breathe. That breath was a pulse of energy, and it slammed into his ship like an invisible wave. Lights flickered, gravity twisted, and for a split second, Jace saw visions, battles fought before his time, fleets swallowed whole, alien kings kneeling in fear. This thing was the reason no one returned from the abyss. It didn't just kill intruders, it erased them from history. The ship spun out of control, and Jace fought with every ounce of skill to level it. He dove through a swirling pocket of violet mist, hoping to lose the creature's line of sight, but when he emerged, it was already there, waiting, in the warship's medbay. Lysara stirred again, her lips parted, and she whispered something her attendants couldn't understand. It sounded like a name. Jace, the old attendant, Meryl, froze, her gaze flicking toward the window as if she too could feel a presence far away. Back in the abyss, Jace's ship scraped dangerously close to a jagged cluster of black crystal. The crystals pulsed faintly, the same blue as the princess's fading veins. He didn't have to guess. This was part of the cure, but the Guardian wasn't letting him near it. The creature's golden eyes locked onto him. A voice, deep and endless, spoke in his mind. Human, why do you enter my heart? Jace's teeth clenched. He had no time for riddles. I came for what can save her, he said aloud. Even though he wasn't sure if speaking mattered, the voice rumbled again, each word vibrating in his bones. You seek the heart, knowing it will cost you your own. The ship's sensors picked up sudden movement. Smaller shapes breaking away from the creature's body. They were like shards of living metal, each one spinning toward his ship at impossible speed. He pulled the controls hard, dodging two, but the third struck the wing, sending the craft into a spiral. Gravity shifted again, and Jace's head slammed against the seat, his vision blurring. He forced himself to focus. Ahead, through the spinning chaos, he saw it, a deep fissure in the wall of the abyss, glowing faint blue. That had to be where the core of the cure was stored. If he could just get there. The Guardian moved to block his path, its mouth opened wider, and Jace saw light gathering inside. Not a simple beam. This was something that could unmake him completely. His ship would be nothing but dust in the dark. Jace's fingers danced across the controls, shutting down his main engines. The strike craft went dead, drifting like a piece of wreckage. The Guardian hesitated, the glow in its mouth dimming slightly as it scanned him, and that was the moment Jace was waiting for. He reactivated the engines at full power, the sudden burst slingshotting him toward the glowing fissure. The Guardian roared this time, the sound not heard through ears but felt in the soul. Every part of the abyss shook, debris and energy storms whipping into violent motion. The fissure grew closer, but so did the shadow of the Guardian. Its massive claws reached forward, and for a second, Jace thought he wouldn't make it. Then, Jace's ship shot through the narrow fissure, the hull scraping against jagged crystal as sparks lit the dark. Behind him, the Guardian slammed into the opening, too large to follow, its claws tearing at the rock in fury. The sound was a deep vibration that shook the entire chamber. Inside, the fissure opened into a hidden cavern, a place untouched for centuries. Blue light pulsed from the walls like a heartbeat. Every pulse seemed to echo through Jace's chest. In the center of the cavern floated a massive sphere of liquid light, swirling slowly as if alive. It was beautiful and terrifying. Jace knew without doubt, this was the heart of the abyss, the cure that could save Lysara. The readings on his scanner spiked off the charts, energy levels FAR beyond anything human tech could store. But before he could move closer, the voice returned. You have found the heart, but it does not belong to you. Jace turned, expecting to see the Guardian outside the fissure. Instead, the air in front of him rippled, and the creature's enormous golden eyes appeared through the rock itself. It was as if the abyss bent space to allow its presence anywhere it wished. I don't care who it belongs to, Jace said, his voice steady but his hands tight on the controls. I need it, or she dies. The voice rumbled through him again, one life for another. This is the law of the heart. A shape emerged from the sphere of light, a figure of pure energy, shifting between alien forms. It reached out a hand, and Jace's ship instruments went dead. If you take the heart, a life must be given to replace it, the figure said. Yours, or another's. Jace's jaw tightened. He had faced impossible odds before, but never a choice like this. He thought of Lysara, her faint breath, her whisper not to let them decide her ending. He also thought of the galaxy, what her survival might mean for peace, or for war. Outside, the Guardian's claws scraped the fissure, breaking pieces of rock loose. One massive blow could collapse the entrance and trap him forever. Jace made his decision. I'll take the cost. But not now, he said. First, I save her. The figure tilted its head, as if studying him. Bravery, or foolishness, it murmured. Then the sphere pulsed violently, a tendril of light shooting forward and piercing the ship's hull without damage. It flowed into a containment capsule on the dashboard, glowing so bright it hurt to look at. Suddenly, the Guardian's roar filled the chamber, not of rage, but of warning. The rock above cracked, fragments raining down. Something was shifting in the abyss, something bigger than even the Guardian. The figure of light vanished, leaving only the sphere behind, pulsing faster now. Jace didn't wait. He pushed the engines to life, blasting out of the fissure just as the Guardian moved aside. For a moment, he thought it was letting him go, but then its voice came again, softer. You have one chance, human. Do not waste it. As Jace's ship shot toward the edge of the abyss, the space around him trembled. A massive shadow rose from the depths, a second Guardian, larger than the first, its body like a moving mountain of stars. The chase was not over, and time for Lasara was running out. The second Guardian rose from the depths like a living eclipse. It was so vast that Jace's ship looked like a grain of sand before it. Its body was made of shifting constellations, whole star clusters moving under its skin. When it moved, space itself seemed to bend around it. The first Guardian stayed behind, silent and still. This was no ally. It was a judge watching to see what the human would do. The new Guardian's voice thundered in Jace's mind. The heart is not for mortals. Leave it, or give your life in its place. Jace's fingers tightened on the controls. I don't have time for this, he muttered, though the weight of those words pressed hard in his chest. If he gave the heart back, Lasara would die within hours. If he kept it, he might never leave the abyss alive. But there was something else. The first Guardian's earlier warning, one life for another. The second Guardian lunged, moving with impossible speed for something so large. Jace pulled his craft into a dive, the ship rattling as streams of violet energy tore past. Every shot that missed sent shockwaves through the abyss, tearing chunks of crystal from the walls. Some of the falling shards glowed with the same blue light as the heart, proof that he was carrying something worth dying for. The ship's shields began to fail, red warning lights flashing across the console. He fired thrusters sideways, sliding between and two collapsing ridges of rock. The second Guardian followed, weaving through the space like a predator that had hunted here for centuries. Then the voice of the first Guardian returned, deep and cold. Human, there is another way to pay the cost. Jace's breath caught. What way? He demanded. The answer came slowly. A life bound to yours. A bond that cannot be broken, even in death. He understood at once. They were not asking for his life now, they were asking for him to bind himself to the princess, a vow that if she died, he would die too. It was more than a promise, it was a chain forged in the laws of the abyss itself. Jace's mind raced. If she lived, he would live. If she died, no matter where or when, so would he. It was a risk no soldier would take lightly, but the image of her pale face and fading breath pushed everything else aside. I accept, he said without hesitation. The space around him rippled, and a golden mark flared on the back of his hand, burning for a heartbeat. Before fading into his skin, the second Guardian stopped its attack, its enormous eyes narrowing. Then it drifted back into the depths, vanishing like a shadow swallowed by night. The first Guardian spoke once more, its tone almost respectful. Then go, protector of the crown. The abyss will remember you. Jace turned the ship toward the edge of the abyss. The path ahead was turbulent, storms of light and fragments of shattered worlds spinning in his way, but nothing could slow him now. The heart of the abyss pulsed inside the containment capsule, and for the first time since this mission began, Jace felt the faintest spark of hope. The stars shifted back to normal as Jace's strike craft broke free from the abyss. His hands ached from gripping the controls, but the glowing containment capsule pulsed steadily on the dashboard. Lasara's only chance at life rested inside their W. As no time to waste, he opened the comm channel to the warship. Static answered him, then a cold, familiar voice cut through the noise. Captain Jace, you will power down your engines immediately. It was the Galactic Council's fleet commander. Jace's heart sank as his radar lit up. A full blockade surrounded the warship, dozens of battleships locking weapons on him. On the warship, the crew stood tense on the bridge. Lasara's breathing was shallow, her life force almost gone. The commander whispered to Meryl, if he tries to land, they will destroy him before he reaches us. Meryl's eyes hardened. Then we will see if the council dares to kill the only one who can save her. In the cockpit, Jace's voice was calm but edged with steel. I'm coming through, he said. The fleet commander replied with cold precision, you have stolen from a forbidden world, violated ancient law, and endangered the balance of the galaxy. If you cross the blockade, you will be fired upon. Jace studied the tactical map. The blockade was tight, but not perfect. There was a small gap near the gravitational pull of a nearby moon. It was risky. The gravity would crush his ship if his timing was wrong, but it was his only shot. He dove toward the moon's pull, engines screaming, council ships moved to intercept, plasma fire streaking across the black. He rolled the ship, dodging the blasts, each one close enough to rattle his bones. His shields were almost gone, warning lights flashing red. Then he triggered the strike craft's emergency maneuver, a short-range jump drive. The ship jolted violently, and for 2 heartbeats everything went black. When the stars returned, he was inside the blockade, skimming just above the warship's hull. The hangar bay doors opened, but council interceptors were already closing in. Jace slammed the throttle forward, landing so hard the craft's landing gear buckled. He didn't even shut the engines down. He grabbed the containment capsule and ran. Inside the med bay, the doctors shouted as he burst in, "Move!" Jace barked, shoving past them to Lysara's side. Her skin was cold, her breath barely there. Without hesitation, he injected the heart's energy into her veins. The blue glow under her skin flared bright, spreading through her body like fire chasing air. For a moment, nothing happened, then her chest rose sharply, her eyes snapping open. The green in her gaze was vivid again, alive. She looked at Jace and whispered, "You came back." Before he could answer, the warship shook violently. The council fleet had opened fire. They had no intention of letting either of them leave alive. The warship's hull trembled as council fire pounded against its shields. In the med bay, Lysara sat up slowly, strength flowing back into her limbs, the blue glow fading to a healthy gold. Jace stood by her bed, still breathing hard from the run through the blockade. Outside, the alarms screamed, voices shouting orders over the comms. The commander burst into the room, eyes wide. "They will destroy us unless we hand you over," he said, his voice grim, "and the cure you brought will be taken." Lysara swung her legs over the side of the bed. Her voice was steady, royal, unshaken. "They will have to face me first." She stepped onto the bridge minutes later, Jace at her side. The council fleet loomed on the main display, a wall of warships, their weapons charged and ready. The council commander's voice came through the speakers, cold as stone. "Princess Lysara, your life is a threat to the galaxy's balance. We demand you surrender the human and the artifact." Lysara's gaze swept across her crew, then locked on Jace. Her hand found his, and the golden mark burned faintly on his skin. She turned back to the display. "This human has done what your fleets could not. He defied the abyss and returned with my life. If you fire on him, you fire on me." The council commander's VO eyes sharpened. "Then you declare war." Lysara's eyes narrowed. "No," she said, "I declare freedom from your chains." Jace stepped forward, his voice cutting through the silence. "And if you try to take her, you'll have to go through me, and all of Earth." The bridge crew turned to look at him. His words weren't a threat, they were a promise. The human fleets were far, but every alien in that room felt the weight behind his voice. The council ships shifted in formation, preparing to fire. The warship's shields would never hold against the first volley. Then, from the edge of the system, sensors picked up a massive energy signature. Dozens of human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, weapons armed, hulls gleaming in the starlight. Earth had heard the call. The council fleet hesitated. They were powerful, but a war with both Lysara's empire and humanity at once could shatter their rule. One by one, their ships powered down weapons, the blockade breaking apart. The council commander's voice came one last time, flat and bitter. "This is not over." As the fleet withdrew, the warship's bridge filled with quiet relief. Lysara turned to Jace, her voice low so only he could hear. "You chose the impossible," she said, "and now, you are bound to me for life." Jace met her gaze without hesitation. "Then I'll fight for you until my last breath." The golden mark on his hand pulsed once, sealing the bond, and somewhere deep in the abyss, the Guardians remembered the human who had defied them and lived.